In this section, we will be looking at the basics of SPSS. As you all know, SPSS is a very well-known and a very popular tool. We will be looking at an introduction to SPSS. Let me just fire a SPSS window. I do this by clicking on the Windows option. And here I will type IBM SPSS. As you know, IBM has acquired SPSS more than a decade back, and it is presently known as IBM SPSS Statistics. I'll be using the 26th version, but what you are going to see will work fine for any version. It will take some time to pop up. There's a good chance that you have heard of different acronyms and different nomenclatures for SPSS. SPSS has a very long history. And when it was originally started way back in 1968, it was known as Statistical Package for Social Sciences. Then for a very brief period, it was known as PASW, which stands for Predictive Analytics Software. That was for a very brief period because of the trademark dispute. It did not last long. As of today, 2020, it is known as IBM SPSS Statistics. So when you click on SPSS, so this is the welcome page that you get. As you can see here, you can see a few options here, very user-friendly options. It just allows you to access new files, or you can click on any of the recent files. We are not going to do any of these things. In case you want to get started, it'll help you with a few resources. It'll just start a tutorial in case you want to do it. I'll not be clicking on any of these options. If you don't want this welcome page to be displayed every time you open it up, you can just click on this option. Don't show this dialog in future, and you can get rid of this window. I'll just click on the close button. Now, what you see is very interesting. This resembles a spreadsheet. Right, you can see that this more or less resembles a spreadsheet with a difference here. Now, the columns here are called as variables. It just displays a VAR, which is nothing but a short form for variable. It is not active as of now. And the rows are called as cases, with each row corresponding to one particular participant. Now you see a major difference, especially if you are a spreadsheet user and you've used and you're trying to learn SPSS for the first time. You see a major difference, and that difference is in the data window. What you're seeing on your screen is called as the data window, and the data window has two different types of view. Right now, the view that I am showing you is what is called as the data view, and if I just click on the second view, there is something called as a variable view. The way to understand this is that it is just like a sheet of paper. The front portion is called as the data view. And if you just look at the back portion, it is what is called as a variable view. Now, the data view, as the name itself suggests, is the place wherein you enter the data. That is a view wherein you get to see your data. And the variable view is the place wherein you declare the variable properties, you create new variables and such things. So what I'll do is basically, you can just keep switching between data view and variable view. There is an interesting shortcut key here, which is Control T. And Control T, T for tiger, can be used to switch between data view and variable view. You can see here, right now I'm in the data view. It's highlighting that I'm in the data view. If I want to just move to the variable view, I can just click on Control T. Now you see a lot of column names here, like name, type, width, decimals, labels. You also see other very interesting stuff like values, missing, columns, alignment, measure, role. We'll just look at this in depth so that there is complete clarity as far as data entering is concerned. Now, when we speak about name here, right now I've not created any variable name. This is the column. This column can be used to declare new variables. Now, let me just quickly go back to data view. You don't see any variable names being displayed, right? That is because you have not created any variable view. That is because you have not created any variable names. The way to create variable names would be to go to variable view. And let me just give you a simple example as to how I want to create variable names. I will be typing name. This is the name of the respondent. And the second variable will be gender. And the third variable will be salary. Question is, what do you see? The moment I declare two variable names, the moment I create three variable names, SPSS automatically declares that the type of the variable is numeric. It reads in the default properties. Now, this is entirely under your control. You can change each of these properties as per your requirement. But one interesting thing is that the moment I create these three variables, it will be very interesting to see what changes have happened in the data view. So I'll go to data view and I'll click data view here. Now, when I click on a data view, you can see that three new variables are created: name, gender, and salary. I can just jump in and type the values for each of these columns. But what I intend to do is I'll go to the variable view and make certain changes in each of these options. Now, variable view, the best way to understand this is this entire page can be called as metadata. When I say metadata, I'm referring to data about data. Metadata refers to data about data. For example, name is name of a person. If I ask this question, obviously you'll say name of a person is not numeric, right? So this is a big mistake that SPSS has made. SPSS at the end of the day is a software. It does not have the brain to think. We'll have to do the thinking on behalf of SPSS. SPSS is a good friend, but a poor master. SPSS takes all the variables as numeric. When you just click the end of the cell, a radio button is displayed. You can just click on the radio button and you can see approximately 9 different options that you have at your disposal in declaring the variable type. So sometimes you can just specify the option comma, date variable, particularly when it comes to birth date and such things, you can just declare the variable as date. In my case, I'm talking about the variable name. It is obviously string, so I'll choose the option string. If you're talking about currency and such things, you can just give the dollar value. But right now, I'm happy to just specify the option as string. Now, this is as far as string is concerned. Gender and salary, I'll just leave the default settings as it is. I'll not disturb it as of now. But if in case you want to change the variable type, you can come to the end of the cell and you can just click on the radio button. A new window pops up which allows you to change and make appropriate modifications as far as the variable type is concerned. You see a very interesting column here called as width. Now, width is mainly applicable for string variables. The default setting is 8, but as I said, this is entirely under my control. I can increase the width or decrease the width. Right, I'll leave it at 8 as of now. Decimal is very interesting. There's no question of specifying a decimal for the first variable, which is string. So what I'll do is I will just leave it as it is. Now, one interesting thing that you can do is if you want to increase the font size, you can just go to view. You can click on the font size and you can just display a size of 18 and click on OK. This is how it appears. I'll come back to this. This is decimals. Now, this is where it gets very, very interesting because you see a very important option called as label. Now, a lot of people tend to get confused with name of the variable and label. Let me just clarify what is the distinction between name and label. Now, whenever you're declaring a variable name, there are some rules and regulations as far as declaring the variable name, right? As a popular practice, what we do is we just give very, very simple and cryptic words. We don't type a sentence because sentences are not allowed. For example, if I were to type name space of space the person and I click on the next one, next cell, SPSS displays a error message. SPSS displays the error message which says variable name contains a illegal character. Understandable because sentences and such things are not allowed. Variable names have to be very, very cryptic. Just imagine a situation wherein you have 3 different names. It could be father's name, son's name, it could be company name. which goes with what, that becomes very, very confusing. So in SPSS is always a good practice to declare, to give a description of the variable. What I'll do is corresponding to name, I'll just type respondent's name. So that next time you just hand over this file to anybody, he can come to label and he can just read out the labels, the description, and he'll be very, very clear as to which variable stands for what. The second variable name can be called as respondent's gender. Here, as you see, space is allowed. Finally, what I have is salary. Again, what I'll do is I'll just type this as respondent's income. So name, gender, and income. Now values, this is where it gets very, very interesting. Now values come into picture when you want to assign codes. And this option is very, very useful. Now for name, I do not want to assign any values in such things, so I'll leave it at the default option. I'll choose the variable gender. Now corresponding to gender, there is value. Now let me just take this opportunity to clarify very, very important distinction between label and level, right? Now I will be assigning the value 1 and I will be calling the category under this as male. I will click on add. I'll assign the value 2 and then I'll call this as female. Now what is 1 and what is male? We have to understand that variable, the number 1 here is nothing but the variable level, and male is the label for it. Level is different, label is different. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all these are nothing but levels. And the description you can just assign in the label part of it. Now, one very, very important thing to recognize is that when you go to the data view, many times it may just display the level. I'll tell you a way in which you can display the label, but as of now, you can just come here and you can just open this value labels option and you can specify the value labels. Now, this is an interesting column, again, missing. I don't have any missing cases here, so I'll leave it at default. I don't want to specify anything here. Now, column, this particular option, columns, is used when you want to change the space between the two margins. By default, it is 8. You can just take a look at data view, and you can see the space between the margin as far as gender is concerned. If you want to increase it, what you can do is you can just come to variable view, and in the variable view, you can just give it a bigger number. I'm just deliberately making it big. So I'm just giving you a big number so that you can appreciate the difference. I'll come to data view. You can see the space between the margins has increased. Similarly, if you want to sort of adjust this, you can just pull this margin to the left side or right side. It is entirely under your control, and Spss is a very, very user-friendly software, as you can see here. Alignment, I'm sure you'll know what is left alignment, right alignment, and center alignment. I'll leave it at this. I'll not make too many changes as far as alignment is concerned. Now, this is where it gets very, very interesting because I've got measure, right? Now, there are 3 different types of measures as far as the species is concerned. One is nominal. Let me just click on this option. The first important measure is scale. It is scale. And the second one is nominal. And the third one is what is called as ordinal variable. Let me just make it clear so that it displays the entire word properly. So for a string variable, it allows nominal or ordinal representation. For a scale variable, you can choose for any other variable that is not nominal. You can choose either scale type, ordinal, or nominal. Now, what is the distinction among these 3? When you look at the scale, look at the icon corresponding to scale. It is a yellow colored cylinder. This is the representation that Spss uses for scale variables. You can see ordinal here. You can see 3 different bars here with different sizes. And nominal, you can see 3 circles here. Now, what's a scale variable? Now, I'm just going to give you a practitioner's definition to identify a scale variable. This may not be a academically rigorous definition. A scale variable is that variable which is scalable or which is measurable. The best way to think of it is any variable which has units can be called as scale variable. For example, height. If I say that my height is 6 feet, height can be measured in feet and therefore it is a scale variable. Weight can be measured in kgs or grams. So again, it's an example of a scale variable. Similarly, distance can be measured in kilometers. So again, it's an example of scale variable. So height, weight, width, length, breadth, all these things are nothing but examples of your scale variables. The second type is that of ordinal variable. Now, when we speak about ordinal variable, please focus on the first 3 letters, ORD, odd, which basically means that there is ordering or ranking amongst the observations of a variable. So wherever you have ranking and such things, you can declare such a variable as ordinal variable. The best example for ordinal variable would be Likert scale variable. Suppose if I ask you a question, do you like SPSS? And I give you 5 options: strongly agree, neutral, disagree, strongly disagree. So there is ranking amongst the observations of a variable. Therefore, it's a ordinal variable. The last of the option is a nominal variable. Now, as you can see here, there is no ranking as such. Nominal, it is just a representation. PIN code, date of birth, ID, all these variables can be called as nominal. Equally, there are many times wherein when we have flag variables like gender, we can call this as nominal. Gender, males and females, there is no hierarchy. Marital status, married or unmarried, again, there is no hierarchy. So you can call this as nominal. Now, as far as salary is concerned, salary is expressed in terms of rupees or dollars or in any other unit. So you can call it as a scale variable. So these are some of the modifications, and you need to be slightly careful as far as measurements are concerned, especially at a later stage when you want to highlight a few, when you are using a few functionalities, it requires that the measurement level be specified appropriately. Finally, what I have is the role of a variable. This mainly comes into picture when you're building a model. Right now, I'm not building any model, so I'll leave the default settings. You can specify the variable role as input if it's an independent variable, target if it's a outcome variable or a dependent variable, or you can choose the variable to be both if you're doing some kind of an association and such things. I'm not going to disturb this. I'm going to leave it at that. So this entire page, this is the beauty behind SPSS, that one entire page is dedicated to declare the variable properties. So you can just come here and you can just go on adding as many columns as possible. There is no restriction as far as adding the columns is concerned. The last time I checked, it would allow you to enter 26,000 plus columns. I don't see too many restrictions or limitations as far as adding newer and newer columns. Now, once you declare the variable names, this is the first step when it comes to data entry. Declare the variable names, declare the properties of the variable. Then you can come to data view. The variable names will be displayed here. And here you can just type in your data. So let me just type in a few names here. Rahul, Preeti, Kamath, Sham, and Ravi. Now, when it comes to gender, I can just type 1 for Rahul. I can type 2 for Preeti. Kamath again is 1. Sham would be 1. And Ravi, you can again type 1. Since I've got only one woman here, let me just add another woman here. It could be any name. You can just take the example of Bhagya. You can just assign the code 2 here, because 2 is the coding that we have assigned for females. Now, you may want to see the label, not the level here. remember, when we are typing 1 here, we are assigning the codes, right? If you look at this particular icon, this is a very, very important icon. It is known as value labels icon. It is known as value labels icon. In the earlier versions of SPSS, you would see a paint brush-like icon. They've changed the icon slightly here. If you just click on this, it displays the corresponding label. Click on value labels icon again, it will display the code here. Salary, you can just give certain the salary of each of these individuals. I'm just randomly typing a few values here. 40,000 and 50,000. So this is how you can see. This is the name column, and I've got the names of individuals. This is the gender column, and I've got information about gender, and finally I've got salary, a very, very important variable. Now, at any stage, if you want to come to the variable view, and if you want to sort of add additional columns, you can just feel free to add additional columns. Those columns will be displayed here. Once you sort of declare additional columns, once you sort of are very, very sure with the variable, with the data entry and such things, you have to come to file, and you can just choose the option save. This will save the file. Right now, I'm just going to my desktop, and in my desktop, I'll just create a new folder and say SPSS tutorial. And within this SPSS tutorial, what I'll do is I'll give a file name, which is data entry. So this is a very, very simple example of how you can enter the data. Let me just draw your attention to a very, very important point. SPSS files are saved. SPSS files have an extension of .sav. This is the extension of the file. Now, if you're working on an Excel file, as you know, the extension is .xls or .xlsx. Sometimes if you're working on a text file, you can, depending upon how you've saved it, it could be saved as CSV, comma, separated values, or a text file .txt. In SPSS, remember that it is saved as .sav. You can save this. Very interestingly, the moment you do any of these things, you'll see a very, very important thing, that is an output window will pop up. This is an output window. It will be blank as of now, except that you see a bit of what is called as syntax. In SPSS language, this is called as syntax. If you want, you can just save the syntax. You can just copy this. This is known as the output window. You can see the heading here. It's known as the output window. If I just click on the SPSS icon in my taskbar, I can just switch to my data window. So there are three important types of window. What you're seeing in front of you is the data window. What you are seeing right now is the output window. Whenever you do any analysis, the output will be shown in the output window. Let me just go back to the data window. Let me show you the third important window, which is called as the syntax window. To access the syntax window, what I can do is I can go to the file menu, click on the first option, and within this, I can choose the second item, which is syntax. You can see here in the syntax option, you can just save. You can just paste the syntax, and you can just go on saving this syntax. This will give you a record of whatever you have done, so that 1 week from today or 15 days from today, if you just want to come here and execute this, you don't have to do each and every step manually. You can just rerun each of these codes, and the output will be populated. Let me just try to save the syntax. I just put a file menu, save as. Now let me just find my desktop. Within desktop, I have already created this folder. Now, please make an important observation here. The syntax of SPSS is as an extension .sps, very important .sps. So the data has an extension which is .sav. the syntax has an extension .sps. So this is where I can just give my own save data, and you can just save this. Let me look at my desktop. Within the desktop, my apologies, I've just clicked on the wrong window. I've just clicked on the wrong folder. SPSS tutorial. You can see here, these are the two files, data entry and save data. Now, in today's section, in this particular section, what you've seen is how to create new variables, how to fire SPSS SPSS window, and then what is the difference between data view, variable view? How do you save a file? These are some of the important options that you have seen. I'll see you in my next video. Thank you very much.